Good morning. This is Eric from the African Homestead, and I'm back in the village. I'm going to start the morning off with a very important project. So it's the best combination of Italian brewing technology, American coffee roasting, and village well water. Perfect. Well, this area is called the Pineapple Patch for obvious reasons. There's about 2 acres here that have been planted in pineapple. I didn't count how many, but there's a few hundred pineapple here. This is also, as far as I can tell, the highest point on the property. And so this is where we want to put our house, just because during the rainy season, if you put anything downhill, you're just going to be constantly fighting erosion. And so we want to put it up on a higher point where we're not going to have as much water flow. Also, as you can see behind me, being the highest point, the land is sloping down towards the stream where we need to build the bridge. And so from where I'm standing down to the tree line you see behind me, it's probably about a 20-foot drop in elevation. And then just beyond those trees is the stream. Okay, so I'm at a little different point on the property. Behind me is there's kind of a ridge that runs along behind me over to the high point that I pointed out before. And then behind me down here, down this hill, is where the pineapple patch is. And when we turn the camera around, this is where the car road will be coming out. As you can see, it is just a solid wall of vegetation that we're going to be cutting through. Behind me is a great example of just how quickly the jungle will take over and take back what belongs to it. We came through here a couple of months ago with machetes, and we cut a swath through the jungle for the survey. It's about 15 to 20 feet wide, and you can see it has just closed up. And in a few more months, it's just going to grow up, especially when the rainy season starts. All this vegetation is really going to take off again, and it's going to completely close up unless you go in and just keep cutting things back. Okay, so I'm just walking here through the bush, and I look down and I find an egg. There are no houses here, there are no chickens around. Should I eat it? So at this point, the only way to get onto the property is to cross this stream. And the only way to cross this stream is to walk across this log. One of the things I love about the village is if you want a lime, you just come over to the lime tree and you pick a lime. But you need to watch out for the thorns. You know what I think of when I smell this? Sonic limeade. Now I'm standing on the village side of the stream, kind of at a high point again, going down behind me, leading to the stream, and then you can see right on the edge of the village. And so the car road, the driveway will come straight in through here and go straight behind me into the jungle. And then that's where we're going to start today. We're going to start on this side with just machetes. I did bring a chainsaw along in case we need to chop down some larger trees, but that's where we're going to get started today. So we started clearing the driveway, and let's just walk up there. So there are two things that are happening today. One is no one will give me a machete to cut with, and the other one is these trees are infested with big red fire ants, and so as they cut, the ants just fall like rain onto your head. So we're making great progress. We've been at it about an hour now, and by we, I mean them. But I've been trying to pull some brush out of the way and get covered in fire ants, so that's pretty entertaining. But where they're working right now behind me, just beyond that, probably only 20 or 30 feet, is the edge of the stream. And that gets us, I have an app here I'm using. That'll get us to the stream, and then the distance from the stream to the clearing that I videotaped earlier is probably 3 times that distance. And so after we get to the stream on this side, then we're going to walk around to the other side to the clearing and work our way back to the stream. It's pretty cool. I have this app I'm using called MAP, M-A-P-P. It's kind of a geo-tracking or geo-something app. And it's pretty nice because I can put, I don't know if this will show up or not, but I can put markers on there, waypoints I think is what they're called. And so we have the town right here, and then the entrance to the driveway. This little dot right here is where we're at, and we're just heading this direction. And then this stream should be somewhere in this area. And where we're going is the edge of the clearing that I videotaped earlier is up here. And so one thing I really like about this is we used this when we were cutting the perimeter of the property. And it has a directional. So all I need to do is point the phone in the direction we want to go, which is right up here. And so that'll just, I can use this, even though the jungle is so dense, I can use this to guide us just directly to where we want to go. So this is a great app, and it shows the smallest roads. There's some places that when I'm traveling, it's like a motorcycle path, and it'll show up on this map. So I don't know where they pull their data from, but it's fantastic here in the jungle. So when you're cutting through the jungle, it is guaranteed that you're going to run into an ant hill or termite hill. As you can see, the one behind me, it's probably about 8 feet tall. And when we cut the perimeter of the property, it was probably 42 or 4,300 linear feet. We came across probably a half dozen of them, so they're just spread throughout the jungle here. So as you can see, walking through the jungle is not that easy. There are just all the vegetation. There's old dead tree limbs on the forest floor. There's vines. There's everything that's falling down. And the whole time as you're walking, these red fire ants are just jumping, like falling from the trees. They're climbing up from the vegetation that I'm walking on. And so I'm constantly just having to kill them as they climb inside my pants and my shirt. I see one sitting on the camera right here, waiting for me to grab the camera so it can jump on me and start biting. They're really super aggressive. I'll call them the African killer ants. So the jungle hides lots of secrets. Right in the middle of where a road is supposed to go. We discovered an old mining pit. It's probably 8 to 10 feet down to the bottom, so we're gonna have to figure out either bypass it or fill it in with fill dirt. But this area, that for years and years they have something called artisanal mining. It's just the local people who dig these holes by hand, who do all the washing of the gravel by hand, and find a little bit of gold, enough to pay the bills. It's not lucrative when you're doing it by hand with big equipment on a larger scale. Liberia is very rich in mineral, both gold and diamonds. And this part of Liberia in particular has more diamonds than the other parts of Liberia. And so most of the people here, just as a little bit of a side trade, in addition to farming, they'll go in these pits and dig gravel, wash it, find some gold, and sell it. One of the fortunate things about the mining pits is the construction we do here, because of the termites in the tropics. You don't do wood construction. You'll use wood for your trusses on the roof, but other than that, your rafters, other than that, you don't use wood in the floor or the walls, you use concrete. And so we're going to be constructing with concrete floors. We'll use concrete pillars that are reinforced with steel rod with rebar. And then in between the pillars, we're going to fill in with mud block and then do a stucco finish of cement on top of that. So with construction, you're going to need crushed rock, you're going to need gravel. And that's the upside of having all these small pits all over the property, is we're going to be able to harvest the gravel that's already been washed and use that in our construction. So when we cast the foundation, when we cast our floor, when we cast our pillars, all that crushed rock, all that gravel is going to come from these old pits that are on site. So for those of you in North America who've been suffering under snowmageddon, freezeageddon, whatever that is, these serious amounts of cold and snow that you've been getting, let's make a deal. Let's trade places for like 48 hours. You'll love it here in the heat of the tropics. I would love to just freeze and get a little frostbite on my ears. Something I'm glad that we're discovering here is that the area we're cutting through for our driveway to get out on the property is not full growth rainforest. Just judging from the size of the trees that we're cutting down and just the vegetation here, it is what I would call more bush or a scrub area. So that means that it was cut down some years ago. It could have been 10 to 20 years ago. The old growth rainforest was cut down for a farm, and since that time it started recovering, it started growing up again. So there are some trees here, but there's still a lot of vegetation down at the ground level, and there's enough light penetration that you can tell this is not an old growth area. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a huge tree laying down behind me from when the land was originally cleared. So I'm glad that we're not cutting through rainforest, old growth trees. Well, it took about an hour and a half, but we reached the edge of the water. One thing that I'm actually pretty happy about is that when I'm checking my app and I look at where we needed to clear coming from the town to the water, the way the stream curved actually goes a lot closer to our building site. And so on this side, we'll be able to clear the road and build a bridge. And once we have the bridge built, we are going to be, looks like about 75–80% of the way to the clearing on our property. And so that's good. Most of the dirt work with the bulldozer will happen on this side, and then we have to build a bridge across this stream, which doesn't look that big. But during the rainy season, the water does come up, probably from what the lay of the land, it looks like it probably comes up about 3 feet. And that's what it runs, 3 feet higher than this during the rainy season. But during super heavy rains, it could come up 4 or 5 feet, which means a lot of this area where we're building the road is kind of lower ground. And so we're going to have to haul in dirt, the laterite soil, that red soil that I mentioned in my Q&A video. And we're going to have to bring that in to build up the surface so we don't end up having the road go underwater during the rainy season. And we have to build our bridge high enough and wide enough that that water can pass. Because if we build the bridge too small, then obviously the water is going to back up and it's going to end up undermining the bridge, and eventually it's going to wash out and collapse. So we're going to have to do this right. And the other challenge with the bridge is it's not just for cars to cross. Because we're going to be doing construction here, I have a backhoe, a Cat 420D that's going to Well, the battery just died on my DSLR, so I'm going to be using my iPhone from here on out. But they asked me, well, what do we do next? We've reached the water. I said, well, let's walk around and come at it from the other side. And they're like, no, the water's not deep. Let's just cross. So someone cut a branch off a tree that's about 4 inches diameter. And we just, walk that tightrope across the water. This is our stream. We are more than halfway through the dry season. It is still running, but it's running pretty slow. They do say by the end of the dry season that it will stop running, and some places you'll be able to walk across. But this is the stream we have access to. So if nothing else, even during the peak of the dry season, there are going to be pools of water, and we're also going to be I have some plans on how we can make some reservoirs that fill up during the rainy season. We'll have access to a pond that way during the peak of the dry season for irrigation if needed. So this area that we're cutting through now is just inundated with something they call sawgrass. And you can see it's 12 to 15 feet growing up into this bush. And the reason they call it sawgrass is it just grabs a hold of you. See that? I just put my hand here. I'm not even grabbing it, and it's just gripping. And so if you try to move too quick, sorry, I got a fire ant on my neck. If you try to move too quick and run through here, that will literally rip your skin, and you'll have cuts all over your hand and your arms. So earlier I mentioned that they weren't letting me use the machete, and it's not disrespectful for that to happen, but it's actually an act of honoring me since I'm a visitor, I'm a guest here, I'm new to the community. They really don't want me to work, and so that's just honestly, it's just a way of honoring. They honor the guests in that way, and also as an older man, I got a few gray hairs on my chin, and so the pape also is in a way dishonoring to see the pape work when there's an able-bodied young person there who should be doing it. And that's just it's one of the cultural rules here in Liberia. That's something I talk about once I get to know people better, about there is honor in work, and that I want to be able to work as long as I can and do physical labor, because a lot of people, when they retire, when they stop working, when they go into the retirement home or the nursing home, they can deteriorate rather quickly. So as long as I'm able, I want to continue to work for myself. But at the same time, I'm an American in Liberia, and I'm, even though the American culture is my norm, I am immersed in Liberian culture. And so I need to respect their cultural norms, their cultural rules. But at the same time, I like to inform them what it's like, how we do things in America. And, in my home, we'll follow the American norms. But when I'm in the community, there's nothing more disrespectful than to me to come in as a know-it-all, forceful American or forceful Westerner and bring my norms and my rules into this cultural space. We made it through, and you can see just on the other side of that clearing is the pineapple farm. And so we're gonna go. I didn't bring any water along, so we've been working for a couple hours now. It took about 2 hours to get through. I'm estimating about 900 feet of jungle. And so we're all gonna get some water, and we made arrangements for some food. So we're gonna have some potato greens with dried fish and lots of rice. So I look forward to a good healthy lunch.